Let's get this party started, guys. Give it just a second. Looks like it is still showing a little bit of an old stream from a couple of minutes ago. See if we can't get this set up right. There we go. Welcome. We're going to try this again to today's episode of the Almost Daily Coaches Vlog. Today is day 6. Yesterday we took an off day because we had some stuff going on, but today we are going to answer a question that I actually got sent by 2 or 3 individuals from the Pathetic Triathletes group over on Facebook, and that was, hey, I know that you posted the other day the ACSM link and you talked about how you're a coach. Hey, the Ironman or half Ironman Chattanooga 70.3 was just postponed back until August. What do I do now? I'm not looking for coaching. I'm not interested in hiring you for a coach, but what would your recommendations be? So that is going to be the number one thing that we're going to answer here on today's live coaches vlog. If you saw the previous live stream, my apologies. We had internet problems. So we're going back and do it again because unlike normal days, we're here in Corona days, which means that we have fairly loose schedule. So as soon as we're done with this, I'm going to go back and finish a couple training plans, and that's going to be the day essentially. I'm going to read and go back and gold mine through the training plans that I have had for HVTathletes the last couple of years, and then refine and make things even better. So if this is your first day here, make sure you are subscribing down below and giving us a thumbs up, as well as leaving comments down below letting me know what questions you would like to have answered here on the Almost Daily Coaches vlog. Now, for today's question, half Ironman Chattanooga was delayed or postponed 3 months. Now, I just want to say before we get into this answer that it's really important to note that some individuals may think that as soon as we have Corona contained or it's under control, that things are going to go back the way they were. That is not going to be the case. I can almost guarantee you that it's going to be a slow unwinding where we're going to take off the restrictions that we've had, and it's going to be a different life, at least for the next 12 to 18 months. However, we are going to plan that our triathlon is in fact going to happen on August 23rd rather, instead of May 12th. Now, the nice thing about this is it gives us almost the exact amount of time that we would need to really improve much more your training and your abilities to be able to show up to the start line prepared. Caveat, most pools and open water swims have been canceled or closed. So that's going to be something, if you don't have a VASA trainer, I would recommend picking one up. That would be the only thing you can really do right now outside of finding some type of open water, or if you have an endless pool. I do not recommend going over to a friend's house who has an endless pool. The whole point of social distancing is, well, distancing. So we don't want to share stuff. Now, as it pertains to your Ironman or half Ironman was postponed, and I'm only talking about those 2 distances because they're somewhat similar to train for rather, and as we go through, it's going to be somewhat similar for both of them. Now, the number one thing we need to cover before we jump into that is going to be, are you actually training because the race is the motivator, or are you training to set a PR, or are you training to go pro or get onto the podium? Because each one of these different levels of motivation, and all of them are great. There is no right or wrong when it comes to motivation. It is a matter of whatever works for you. However, those who are training for the race are going to find that the motivation waned a bit. So for me, my motivation waned when we were closing gyms down in the country here because I was just getting back to doing live sessions with athletes, something that I really enjoy and get a lot of personal fulfillment from. I was just getting back into it, and then boom, that's it. Gyms are closed because of this coronavirus, and I went through 4 days where I was essentially on the sofa doing the bare minimum. I was reading training files, I was writing training plans, and other than that, I was on the sofa just watching Netflix, burning through all the good shows apparently. So we need to understand our motivations, and Dr. Lisa Lewis came onto the Strong Savvy Cyclist and Triathlete podcast a number of weeks ago, so I strongly recommend that you go back and listen to that episode. It's over on Anchor, the Strong Savvy Cyclist and Triathlete podcast. You can also find it on the Human Vortex Training website. Now, regardless of what your motivation was, we do want to take you back through the training plan. So what we're going to look at first and foremost is going to be, where are you in your training block? So right now, if you are following a program, whether it's prepaid, as in like pre-made off of Training Peaks or Today's Plan or whatever it may be, or you are self-coached, there should be some type of periodization that you should be going through, which means that you have 2 to 5, maybe 6 weeks of slowly building up, and then you have a week of recovery where essentially your body is digesting all of that fitness that you've put together. So if you're following the periodization for this and you're actually progressing, we want to kind of time it where you go through that recovery week and we want to give you an extra one. So you're kind of coming up, we let you drop down, let that recovery week go as planned for the recovery week, and then we add an endurance week where we're doing a couple very short workouts after 2 to 3 days completely off. Now the 2 to 3 days completely off is really time for you to spend with your family, time to run errands, again, social distancing, wearing a mask, taking all necessary safety precautions within reason, and listening to your current laws and regulations. But it gives you those 2 to 3 days to take care of things that training was putting off. Spending time with family. After those 2 to 3 days off, we want to get in a run and a bike that are going to be at zone 2 or endurance. The run should be somewhere between 30 and 45 minutes for the half Ironman and 45 to 60 minutes for the Ironman, unless running is a weakness for you, in which case we would want to go through a 30-minute easy run after a dynamic warm-up. Don't worry, this is going to be a blog post over on the Human Vortex Training website as well, which will give you actual links to those dynamic warm-up exercises that I recommend. That'll be posted over on humanvortextraining.com, and we'll have a link down in the comments. So when you hit that subscribe button and the bell button, make sure you check out the comments as well, because we will have that linked. I think it's going to go up on Thursday, will be the actual blog post. The bike itself, 60 to 75 minutes endurance. If you want to do a couple fast pedals in there, 3 by 1 minute if you've never done fast pedals before, or maybe 2 by 5 minutes. But the idea between these two workouts is to just kind of keep you moving along. And then on Friday and Sunday, this coming weekend, is when we would want to retest. So I prefer to do the run test first. So that would be a 5K or 10K threshold pace, having you go out, do a dynamic warm-up, go out and hit that 5K or 10K threshold pace as fast as you can. And that will just let us know, how has your training worked to date? How are you doing leading up to the last 6 weeks of taper before your race? Did we get what we needed to out of your training, or did we miss something, or can we refine something and help make you faster and stronger? The bike test would be actually twofold. It would be a power profile test, and after the power profile test, I would add a functional threshold test. Why would we add it together? You're at half Ironman and Ironman distances. You should have the base to be able to handle both of these tests back to back, because it will give us a really good idea as to what you'll look like out on the bike after you've done the swim and the run. So after you've done these, we can go back, we'll take a week, and we'll go pretty much maintenance. We'll go through endurance, we'll go low level, of course, unless you have an endless pool or you have access to a private pool where you can swim laps, you're not going to be able to swim. So we would bike and run and do strength training as per normal during that recovery week. And then either, if we see that you really need to work on your VO2 max or your tempo pace, or we're really seeing a 1 minute or 30-second power profile number that is really, really low, we would go back through a 2 to 5 week block that would focus on this, and then go back to build 2. And then we would take you exactly through that taper again. Or we would adjust that taper to where you are at that point. The other option is, if you've done everything really well and you feel good, if you're racing the race to finish, if you're showing up and your expectations are to finish, we will go back to base for about 2 to 4 weeks, and within reason, again, your local restrictions and laws, and you want to make sure social distancing, so no group rides. We would go back through 2 to 4 weeks of base, working on refining that, and then come back to your build 1 or build 2. So those final 2 months are going to be the same thing, going through that taper, essentially. This is if the training has worked for you, and you'll already know, hey, the training worked really well, I feel really good, I feel strong, I feel ready. Excuse me, live, things happen. However, if you feel that something is weak, the first 6 weeks after we go through this recovery week and then the testing week, the first 6 weeks of these next 12 or 10 at that point is going to be focusing in on that weakness. So let's say your 5K or 10K threshold run test was great, but your power profile and your functional threshold test on the bike was very poor. It stayed the same or it went down. We would spend those 6 to 8 weeks of going back through and really looking to boost your threshold through endurance. So we could do this through progressive rides. We could do this through a number of different tools. Again, if you're working with a coach, work with them. Don't take what I'm saying, but this is just to answer those 2 or 3 of you who messaged me from the Pathetic Triathletes group over on Facebook to give you an in-depth answer, because imagine me typing this all out. And again, if you like this content and you're finding it useful, make sure you're subscribing down below, give us a thumbs up and give us a share. Now, as you go through and you are building yourself back up, what's really, 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 really important right now, there are 3 things that all endurance athletes think they do right and we just don't do as well as we should. Number 1 is sleep. So unless you're working a critical job where you're working normal hours, or maybe you're a doctor or an EMT and you're working extra hours, or you're grocery store, you're working extra hours, in that case, you're going to get the sleep that you can and make sure it's as regular and as deep as possible. We want to make sure that you're taking advantage of this, sleeping in an extra half hour. If you have kids, we know obviously that can be a challenge, but maybe now you have time for that afternoon nap that instead of doing the nap, you usually grab a coffee. Work it out with your partner, with your husband or wife, and figure out how you can get a little bit of extra sleep. Now, the second part to this is making sure that you are eating really healthy and clean. And again, I talked about my 4 days on the sofa where I was just doing training plans and the minimum to keep my clients going and happy, which is more than some people will do, but to me, it was the minimum. A lot of my clients were like, wow, you're really messaging more than usual. What's up? What this is we want to make sure that if you go through this, that you are eating as healthy as possible. So we're talking about more vegetables, more fruits, not too many more fruits, but fresh fruits, minimizing the junk food or the comfort food that you are eating. So this is really, really important, as well as increasing up your protein intake. So if you're falling down in your training volume because the pools are closed, you don't have a vessel, you don't have access to anything to do your swimming, and you haven't done strength training yet. We'll talk about something at the end that I'm just getting ready to try out and start here. But number 1 thing is, if your training volume is coming down or your training intensity is coming down because motivation, or you're locked inside, or you just can't struggle through those 2.5 hour rides on the trainer instead of being outside, make sure you're eating more protein and more vegetables. What this is going to do is help you stabilize your blood sugars, as well as get you more phytonutrients such as vitamins and minerals, allowing you to be able to be healthier and function better. The last thing we want to do is continue the same diet while our training volume or intensity drops. This is important. So increase the protein. If you're unsure what to do, you can pick up a protein shake and add 1 scoop to a meal somewhere. You can also add something like a bell pepper or a carrot. That can be the addition. That could be the more vegetables. It's just something that you can easily snack on. For me, it was 3 cucumbers, a carrot, and then after a couple days when it was still not going that great, it was 3 cucumbers, a carrot, and I think a half a bell pepper or whole bell pepper, something like that. So making sure that you're doing these things. Increase the protein and increase the vegetables, and make sure you're not going down that bad road of tons of junk food or too many processed carbohydrates. Now, the last thing as we go through for today, you'll notice that I keep looking out the window. That's because the window is open. We have all of the windows in the apartment are open here, which is allowing the air flow in. So it's 78 degrees here, which is uncommon. Now it's 74, actually it went down. So some of you may not have weather that is as good as this is, and that's okay. Essentially what we want to try and do is air through the apartment as much as possible. So if it's really cold still where you are, maybe it's cracking the window while you're in the shower, so the rest of the rooms of the house are aerated. But there were a number of studies that were done back in after and during the 1918-1919 flu pandemic, Spanish flu pandemic, that they found that fresh air for an hour a day, opening the windows, actually really helped the recovery rate. So even if you're not sick, I'm not saying open the windows if it's 17 degrees outside and freezing, but I am saying that you should open the windows a little bit, get some air as you can. That's it for today. Now, the thing that I wanted to share with you, it is a little bit of a pitch. It's a new program. I have been getting 2 or 3 texts and messages here and there from people who are kind of interested, and they don't really want what I have. They're like, well, I just need strength training to replace the swimming because I really like what you have to say. Or they say, I really want to replace my swimming with something else, and I hear strength training. Do you have a program, a 6 60-day program that I can do to just get me through this? The answer now is going to be yes. I am looking for 10 triathletes or cyclists, it's a combination of the two, who are looking to increase their 30-second power output by 4 to 6% over the next 60 days. And what I'm focusing on is the power output, because what will happen with this home workout, it's a strength training program, strength and conditioning program. You don't need a lot of equipment. What this program is it's going to be focusing on the metabolic systems of the body and increasing your strength and balance overall. So we're looking to increase your power on the bike, run, if you run with Stride, as well as in the pool through our 60-day home strength training program. So if you're interested, comment down below, give me a like, send me a message, and that's it for today. So we went about 15 minutes here on the remake. I'm going to get over, finish a couple training plans, and enjoy the sun. I'm actually going to sit here with my coffee. And remember, until next time, train smarter, not harder, because it is all about you. Again, leave your comments and questions down below. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you hopefully tomorrow around 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. If not, we'll see you Thursday at 10 a.m. for our almost daily coaches vlog. Remember, train smarter, not harder, because it is all about you. See you out there, guys.